Hello and welcome to Recap the podcast with me, Lucy Wheeler. Recap stands for Research in Education, Child Development and Parenting. And our mission is to embrace everyone and make everyone feel at home and part of a supportive community. Here on the podcast, you will find stories from parents, child development professionals, researchers, early childhood educators, and many, many more. So pop on those headphones while you walk the dog, grab a snippet during your lunch break or while your baby sleeps, and enjoy listening to some incredible stories from some truly amazing people. Welcome to Recap. Hello and a huge warm welcome today to my guest Lewis Fogarty, who I'm very excited to chat to today about all things leadership, education and being a parent. So before we head into that, I just want to tell you a little more about our guest. Lewis openly shares that his passion in life is twofold: to help people reach their potential and to raise the status of early years sector. He does this through being a dad to two young boys and owning the group of nurseries they go to. Lewis is also the vice chair of TacTyc, a charity that is committed to today's young children. Alongside this, Lewis lectures at Brunel University in Leadership and Management in Education and is the Director of Teaching and Learning for the Department for Education. Lewis's research activity complements his day-to-day work as a leader, and he has packaged his experiences in an accessible format to help others through Edventurous Leadership, which we will hear more about later. And finally, Lewis also founded the charity Connected International, which aims to connect with local community groups to support the great work that they are doing in rural Uganda. What an impressive bio from Lewis. I'm so excited and incredibly honoured to welcome to the podcast today, Lewis Fogarty. How are you doing today, Lewis?
Good, thank you. Thank you, Lucy. Yeah, really kind words there. And when you hear it all, down in one place, it's like, oh, yeah, that's a lot. But yeah, I love what I do. So
it is a lot, but you can definitely see how all of it links together as well, and how it's all building towards what we're saying at the beginning of your two passions as well. So that's great. I think a good way to start is to talk about the fact that you are a dad to two little boys, which is amazing, and they're clearly a huge drive in the passion to do all of the amazing things that you do. So how did you find that journey into becoming a parent, becoming a first-time dad, and then going through it a second time and being a dad to two?
Yeah, well, everyone loves talking about. Every parent loves talking about their children, don't they? So yeah, I'll take that opportunity. So
take the floor.
Yeah, so my two little boys. So that the eldest is going to school in September, which is just crazy. So yeah, he's going to be 4 in July, and my youngest is 2, and 17 months apart, and they are best friends, bitter rivals. They absolutely egg each other on, but they certainly make me and my wife laugh every day. But yeah, they came along, I suppose, halfway through my entrepreneurial journey, if you like, and certainly my academic journey. They came actually kind of really during it. I'm sure we'll talk about those things a bit later, but they definitely give you a shift in mindset.
Yeah.
They definitely give you a lack of sleep. And I think sometimes, managing a lack of sleep, but with that shift in purpose, I think sometimes they sort of balance each other out a little bit, because you have this extra reason why, that extra powerful why for, why are you going to work? Why are you trying to do that thing? Why are you trying to help that person? And, you want your children to have a wonderful life. I want them to hopefully become wonderful young men. That's what my wife and I strive towards. And I think for that to be possible, I have to try and be a good man too.
Yeah.
So it really helps me, to make difficult decisions, to do the difficult things sometimes, to try to do what's best, but always keep that balance, and they certainly help me with that. And they just remind me just to switch off. They don't care about the list of things you just said.
Yeah.
They care that I'm in our garden. They're helping me with cutting the grass, and just that time. And they love those things. And I think I'm really grateful that they came along when they did, because it really helped me get that balance. And of course, I don't always get it right. My wife will tell you that, I'm sure. But, we always are trying to fine tune and create that life that we love. And, most of the time we're pretty close to that, I think. So very grateful.
It's hard though, isn't it? It's hard to be able to make that shift. And like you say, you're completely right when you say that children aren't interested in all of those credentials that you can list and all of those
Mm.
qualifications and certificates and awards and things like that. They want your time. They want to be with you and they want to enjoy their day-to-day life with you. So like you say, being in the garden, cutting the grass and spending time is just absolutely what they need.
And it makes me try to be like uber productive,
Mm,
like, so I wake up at, I mean, it's different now, just to be clear, if we've got people listening that have got younger children, this isn't always possible, but my children are in a relatively good routine now. I wake up at 5
mm,
and I get my work done, my deep thinking stuff then, and often it means I can finish work, 3:30, or around then, obviously not always, but then I can be with them, collect them from nursery and drop them to nursery. So I sort of use my time as well as I can to try to then give them that
mm.
time, because they're not up at 5. Sometimes they are, but they're not normally. And I think it's just really important that you find a way to make it work for you. Not everyone will have that ability that I just described with the time and stuff, but I do think the more you can create a bit of space in your day to do the things that matter most to you, the more fulfilling it will be, and the better parent, I suppose,
Mm.
you can be with giving them the time that they so eagerly want with you.
Hmm. And I think as well, it's nice to acknowledge that it's also nice for them to see you working and kind of be that role model of somebody that you are working towards bigger goals that you're setting for yourselves, and they play a big part of that, and I think that's important as well.
Yeah, and I love it. Like, my son actually, he loves sending emails. Like, he does it. I let him go on my laptop. He actually broke one of the keys on my MacBook when he was really quite young. He was a bit young to be like typing away.
Oh.
But yeah, he sends emails, and he pretends to make phone calls to Ben, my business partner, and have meetings with Sam and Shakiba, who work in the nursery. And whenever you say bye to them, they often say, "Bye, Daddy. See you at Brunel," and like, because that's
Oh,
where I am now doing this
yeah.
recording. And honestly, it's just brilliant. And like, not just with work wise though, but like, they love going for a run. Like, because my wife and I, we go for runs and we exercise, and they absolutely love seeing all that, and they do that, and they kind of do that, like like pretend to be running on the spot. And yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, what sort of person do I want them to be when they're old? I want them to work hard.
Yeah.
I want them to be active. I want them to be happy. So I try to show those things. And what is it they say, that children rarely do what adults ask them to, but they seldom fail to do what they see them do. That kind of idea.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, and we know, don't we, from all of the research out there, we know that this kind of observational learning and experiential learning is key to how children gain their skills and how they learn how to do life. So absolutely, I think seeing that positive role model around them in all the different aspects that they can, I think is really important. Um, I mean, as with parenting, with anything, there will be some challenges and juggling around. And we've said the long list of things that you do. And so you're juggling that kind of parenting and working. And I know you've mentioned about you get up early now that they're in a bit of a routine, which is fantastic. Are there any other kind of challenges to do with that kind of juggling parenting working that you have? And what do
Mm.
you do to overcome that?
I think a really important thing is I'm very honest about, having children, and particularly, for example, what I mean by that is sometimes my wife has to go out and I'm in a meeting at home and my youngest is asleep, let's say, and napping. I just say, look, my youngest is napping, and he should be asleep for another hour, but you never know. And there's been many times when they've
Yeah.
joined me at the end of meetings. I must admit, that sometimes it's actually quite helpful if you're ready for a meeting to end. It's like, Ty, come here, No, I'm just messing.
Oh,
No.
I've got to
Yeah,
go.
no, but so there's that side of it as well, and I think it's really important that it's like when you've got two children, you can't always say to the youngest, "Oh, you can have what you want. Sorry, eldest, you've got to wait." I think you also got to do that with children and work. You can't always say to your child, "No, wait, I'm working," and you can't always say to your work, "No, I'm being a parent right now." So I think it's about that balance and recognizing the two. But
Mm,
I try to do, like, I have phone calls sometimes in the car when they're in the car with the nursery team members, and I say, when the phone rings, I say, "Oh, I've got the boys in the car," and they'll either, play ball and just look out the window nicely, or they'll just start, screaming or something just to kind of make the phone call
Talking over the
difficult.
conversation.
Yeah, so I tried to make them central, and obviously it's easier for me to make them central to my work because a lot of my work's about
Yeah.
early years and leadership development, and I have a nursery and I lecture in that, so they're central to that anyway. And I always have a little picture of them on my presentation slides when I do talks and things like that. Yeah, so they're part of it, and I try to talk to them about what I'm doing and the kind of work I'm doing. And I was marking essays this week, and Tyke said to me, "Who are you emailing, Daddy?" And I said, "Oh," I tried to explain to him the process of marking an essay, and of course the 3-year-old looks at me like, "You're right, I'm going to go now, Dad." But
Yeah.
I hope there come a time, when I'm always going to respond to those questions suitably, and I'm sure there'll come a time, probably not about marking essays, but when he shows a bit more of an interest in what it is I'm doing, and we can talk more about that. So I look forward to that.
Yeah, I love that you involved them so much in it. And I think, I don't know if you agree, but I think there's definitely been a shift in terms of there's a lot more working parents. So there's a lot more acceptance that actually you have other responsibilities. So, for instance, like you said, oh, I have a child sleeping in the next room. I may have to get up and leave abruptly if I need to. But I feel like there is generally getting more acceptance and more acknowledgement that there are people that are in these sorts of roles. And I love that you are kind of representing the male side of things and saying, actually, I also have responsibilities. It doesn't all fall to my partner or my wife or whoever. And it isn't just kind of the mum's going to deal with it. You've taken that responsibility, and it's kind of thread into your work. And I think that kind of gives you the kind of ethos, I guess, behind your companies and the work that you're doing as well. So I think that that's really important. And by the sounds of it, and again, we have to acknowledge the industry that you work in. So there probably is more understanding because of the industry that you work in. But it's great that you've got that opportunity to really thread that in. Can you tell us a bit about your company? You've got a company called Always Growing Limited.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that company and what made you kind of want to set up your own company, and what was that process
Sure.
like, especially
Yeah.
as a dad as well?
Yeah. So that company is actually going to be 10 years old next year. So that's
Oh,
what I meant at the start when I said like they came partway through my entrepreneurial journey. So I was,
right.
say 6 years into business before they came along. And I think just to just to respond to your point just there as well about like the dad being involved in the children as well. And I think
Yeah.
I often find myself a little bit frustrated with my team at Always Growing when, for example, the mum is the one that my team are 99% women,
Yeah.
and that they're the ones that are being off with their children when they're sick. And I, of course, sometimes recognize that children want their mums when they're sick sometimes, of course that. But I also think it's really important that we step up and recognize that even if the male earns more than the female, for example, the dad earns more than the mum, let's say, it doesn't mean that their role as a dad is less important than the role as the mum. And I'm really passionate that,
Yeah.
let's say my boys are off sick, it isn't automatic that my wife's going to be off with them. It's a conversation. What have you got on today? Well, I've got this on. What have
Yeah.
I got on today? Can't really move that. So I think that's really important. And like you said about how that sort of filters into the ethos of the company and
Mm.
the way I do things. And Always Growing started 10 years ago when it was more of a hobby, I suppose. Myself and my business partner, Ben, we were both teachers at the time, and it started as a holiday club. And it was fun. I loved it, playing with children from 4 to 13, just having fun and getting paid to, play football and be on the trampoline and mess around and do junk modeling and all those things. It was awesome. I didn't really have any responsibilities, so I could be there all the time. And then it sort of developed from there into an after school club. And then 2018, 2019, we started exploring the option of a nursery. And then
Right.
COVID hit. Was it March 2019 approximately in the UK anyway, let's say. And so our nursery was 3 months old then, I think, when it first really, affected us, let's say.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it was scary. It was really scary. And we had to no, sorry, it was 2020, wasn't it? So it was really early on in the
Yeah.
nursery journey, and it was scary because it still felt like we were a month old. To be honest, that's probably why I got the dates wrong there, because it felt like, oh my goodness, we've just got this going and we are
Hmm.
threatened. And the after school club had to close because we were literally taking 2 children from one school in year 2 and 1 from year 4, and then going to another school and picking 4 up from there and bringing them to one place.
Right.
So
You couldn't have that mixing.
Exactly. So we closed that, and then we did decide to close. We closed the Holiday Club 2, partly because of COVID, but when we didn't reopen it, and it meant we could focus from 2019, 2020, like just on the nurseries. And over the past 5 years, we've opened 3 separate additional nurseries. We have 32 team members now, and we've sort of ridden the waves of COVID.
Wow.
And yeah,
Well done.
thank you. Yeah, and it's interesting that the metric I do often use to sort of speak about the company is how many team members we have, because it's important for me to grow a team and have them developing as well. I see myself, for those with an early years background listening, like I'm the key worker to the team.
Right. Okay.
The staff centered director and my business partner Ben and Sam and Shakiba, the other leaders, support the operations more, let's say, and staff as well, of course. But yeah, it's that's always growing, and now I love it. My 2 boys go there. My dad's the maintenance worker, my mum's the bookkeeper, accountant, and
It's a real family business then.
and my nan as well. She works 1 day a week now. She's over 80 now, and I think she keeps hinting about stopping work, and I've got to keep her out of trouble though, so I've got to keep her in employment for some of the time. So that's always growing, and we have a family feel to us, but we've definitely become more sort of business minded. We've had to in the past few years, but I do think everyone's benefited from that slightly more formal approach to things. So yeah, it started as a hobby, and now it's become something that I'm incredibly proud of, that literally is what's raising my 2 children alongside my wife and I, of course.
I love that. And I think going back to what you said about kind of right when you're in the early stages of being up and running and having something like COVID hit you, I mean, that's knocking even the most established nurseries and preschools and things like that. So to come in on something that's still so fresh and so new, I mean, that must have been such a big hit for everybody to manage through. But here you are, years later, and thriving and growing, and actually your numbers as well, saying about kind of your staff and that, because it's known that in this industry, retention of staff is really tough. So to be able to grow a team and to continue to grow a team, I think is kind of testament to the kind of environment that you're obviously providing. And I think because you have a leadership interest, and that's a big focus of yours, because I've worked in a number of different nurseries and preschool settings over the years before I went into higher education, and I've definitely worked in a range where I've had some really good leadership and I've had some quite poor leadership. And when it's not there, when it's not a focus and it's not important to all of the people involved and it's not executed correctly, it really does impact the whole setting. So I think I like that you've got this kind of leadership focus as well as kind of growing the early years team and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, similar to yourself in that the bit at the start of the story I didn't say is that I worked for a nursery company, a husband and wife duo, who were incredibly important to me, mentors really, not so much now, let's say, but I know that they're there if I were to call them now, they'd help if I needed help. A really successful nursery group, Hungry Caterpillars. I also experienced bad leadership, and I won't mention them by name, but it was really valuable to see what is good leadership, and a really basic thing. I always remember when I went into a setting, I was like some 18, 19-year-old that was just sort of helping out the director with some like laboring stuff. He noticed that there was paint spilt on the floor, and he went in the kitchen, got a cloth, and then was hands on his knees wiping this paint up whilst I stood there watching him do it. And I think that really small example is what leadership is. It's not expecting people to do anything that you wouldn't do yourself. And him showing me that, whether he realized it or not, was incredibly impactful on me, because it just really showed me what leadership isn't telling other people what to do. It really isn't. Leadership is leading by example and trying to create an environment where everyone can do their best work. And I think that was a really small thing he did that has had a lasting. That was probably, I don't know, more than 10 years ago, and I remember it so vividly now.
It's funny the things that stick with us, isn't it? And at the time, you don't realise how impactful that's going to be on your journey going forward. Is that kind of where you think your passion for leadership came from then?
Definitely, in many ways, wanting to emulate their success as a business, but also as a family. Like, I tutored their eldest daughter. I helped renovate their house with the garden work and tearing things down and stuff. Absolutely did. And I think now it's funny, 10 years in business, but I really feel like I've become a businessman, let's say, in the last 2 years, 3 years. And I mean that in a good way. People might use that in a bad way, but for example, even one thing you mentioned about retention and stuff, and even today I was listening to a podcast and they spoke about undesirable and desirable turnover. And so even now, I've been lecturing in leadership for 6 years, 5 years, being a leader for 10 years, and today, still curious, learn something. Just to think about, it's kind of obvious.
Mm-hmm.
There's some turnover you like and some staff you don't mind leaving, some stuff you really don't want to leave.
Yeah.
But then thinking about what is desirable turnover. So we even found out literally I found out literally yesterday that a team member's leaving, and when she told me, the first thing I said was, why? Like, I was sad, and then she explained to
Yeah.
me she's been offered a job that literally, if she could write a job description for herself, it combined her love of horses and
Oh.
children, and it was just perfect.
Oh, wow.
So in some ways, I'd class that as desirable turnover, because if you didn't work with us and get her level 2 qualification, then she wouldn't have got this job, maybe. She
Mm-hmm.
developed as she's become a really excellent teacher, and she wouldn't have maybe got this job. So therefore, we've helped her develop and go on to her dream job. So that's desirable in my eyes. I'd love to keep her. If she
Mm-hmm.
changes her mind, she'd be welcome back. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it's just things like that, I suppose. I think part of being a good leader, I think, is about always being open to learning from everyone you meet. So yeah, that's part of me.
What a lovely positive way to look at something like that as well, because it could quite easily, like you said, as soon as she said she was leaving, you had that sadness. Oh no, why?
Mm,
Um, but to put that positive spin on it and think actually you were instrumental in this other human being, developing and going on to achieve, her dream position and things like that. That's a really positive way to look at it, and to feel as a company that you've been instrumental in that. So it's not a negative that,
mm,
she's not leaving because of a bad reason. It's, just unfortunately
yeah.
she's found something that actually fits her aspirations more. But I think you're right. I think it's all about perspective, isn't it, when it comes to leadership? So by taking that perspective on it, it's still creating that positive environment for your other
Mm,
staff to be able to continue to grow, which obviously is really important to you. Um, so we've spoken about how you've got many roles
mm,
alongside running this company. You've got roles, and I've mentioned a lot of them previously, but the vice chair of TacTyc, you're co-convener of BERA's Early Childhood Research Interest Group, you're
mm.
teaching in leadership and management at master's level, your role as director of teaching and learning, Department of Education, you're a parent. Like, firstly, how do you find the time to fit in to be able to feed into all of these different streams that you do, which is amazing? And like I say, they obviously do all link it industry wise, but they're all very different types of roles.
Mm,
So how do you find the time? But also, how do these roles, do you think, help shape who you are and subsequently what you then go on to do to help others?
yeah, so it's a really wonderful question. And I think, absolutely, my full-time role is at Brunel University, and that's where I'm, you know, majority of my time is spent with the things related to that. But a really big part of working in academia is your profile as an
Hmm.
academic. So, for example, being part of TacTyc and being the co-convener of BERA SIG, like, those are very much part of my Brunel role in terms of me establishing myself as someone that's knowledgeable about early years and trying to drive positive change in early years. So in some ways, those roles come together, in terms of time anyway. If I'm spending time leading a SIG group for BERA, that's really part of my role in many respects. And then, um, with TacTyc as well, I think altruism, helping others, I think that has become to shape me more and more, and I think we'll come on to talk about ConnectEd later, but it's just become part of who I am now. I think, like, there's a a Japanese concept called ikigai, which is about finding like your purpose. It's the joy in always being busy. It's about recognizing, finding something that you love, that you're good at, that helps the world, and that you can get paid for. Now, not all of my roles are get paid for, so let's put that one to a side. But you obviously need to get paid so you can live at some part of what you do.
Yeah, of course.
But I think helping people develop, which I could do in all those roles, and helping early years stages to raise, that's my ikigai. And I found it, but I just happened to have found it with like 6 different job titles. But really, that's what I'm doing, and that's what I'll continue to do for as long as I can. And I'm working in academia is wonderful, like in terms of the support you get, the development, the workshops that Brunel offer in terms of professional development is great for me. I try to take, like, for example, there's one about storytelling for policy makers, and it's helping you to articulate your research for policymakers. But of course, that's not just a skill you can use for that. It's a skill for writing LinkedIn posts, to communicate more clearly, to package what you're offering. It's so these kind of things are transferable skills, I suppose. So I think I've learned a lot from being here, and I haven't even mentioned like the diverse range of colleagues that I have that many have become friends, and what I've learned from them along the way. And one thing I love about academia, is about that network that you form with meeting people by saying yes to things. Just saying yes to things you think, I'm not sure about that, and you meet wonderful people. Even today, I was asked by a colleague before if I could help someone with Invivo, which is this software that I didn't know much about, but I just said yes because I like trying to do that kind of stuff. And turns out she knows my sister-in-law, and that we've both got similar sort of angles with our research, and it was lovely to meet her. And that was just today, so I really value the power of network, and I think those roles help with that. But going back to ikigai, I think how I do what I do is because I think I found my ikigai, and that I find joy in most of what I do. I mean, I'm not sure any academic enjoys marking 5,000 word assignments, but I find joy in most of my work, which means I'm happy to do it at random times and to do it relatively promptly. Like, I suppose I'm good at a lot of what the roles entail in terms of communicating clearly, forming relationships, and that helps too.
I feel like listening to you talk about it, this Japanese word, ikigai, did you say?
Yeah, Ikigai.
I love that, and I feel like you've just answered the question as to why I do what I do, because Recap turns a year next month, so I'm just about to celebrate my first year. Thank you. And it's been a real journey, and it's been one of the most challenging things and my scariest things that I've done. Setting up a company and taking that plunge and putting your time, your money, and everything into something that may not amount to anything. You don't know what's going to happen. So, and doing it alongside, so I work at Anglo-Ruskin University, and I'm also doing my PhD, which I know you are as well, so we'll come back to that. But I do a lot of juggling as well day to day, and I often have people say to me, "Oh, how do you fit it all in?" And I'm like, I don't know. I just but I love it. I love everything that I'm doing, and I'm so passionate about it. And as you said, you don't mind getting up at 5 a.m. to do a little bit of work. I don't mind working at the weekends. I don't mind taking some hours in the evening. Obviously, my child's nearly 18, so she's a lot older, so he's off my hands a bit more. But I feel like you explaining that term, that encompasses exactly why I do it, and I've never thought of it like that before, and that's probably why it makes it easier to put so much of your, I say spare time in inverted commas, into something like what you're building, because you have that passion there. I love that word. I'm gonna look more into that. That's really really interesting. Yeah, I love that. So let's talk a bit about leadership and management, because this plays a big role in everything that you're doing. So you do a lot of work around this, and you've set up 2 further organisations around the kind of leadership and management thread, I'd say. So we have Edventurous Leadership and Connected International. So can you tell us a little bit more about what these organisations offer?
Sure. So Edventurous Leadership, it's a learning platform and community dedicated to helping people become better leaders, but better leaders of themselves and of others, to essentially enable people to work in an environment that's right for them. So that is essentially born out of my almost obsessive consumption of leadership literature and experiences. And I found myself almost bursting at the seams with this information that I had to try to make sense of. And I started to almost categorize my notes about what makes a good leader.
Okay.
I didn't know where it was going. I was just sort of trying to make sense of my thinking about how I can be a better leader and what it means to be a good leader. And from that, I created a set of 34 elements of leadership that look like a periodic table. They're grouped,
Okay.
and they have different numbers. And you know, they're things. Some things are quite, you know, obvious, like being a team player, a good communicator. Less obvious things like finding comfort and discomfort, being accountable to future you, being unrealistic about reality, and things like that I thought really contribute to that. And all the content that we produce now is, you know, most of it is available for free. Our LinkedIn page is really informative, but it's centered around these elements and sharing it. We try to capture it around issues that I think everyone experiences, like having difficult conversations, developing self-leadership. So alongside this, I try to do talks to people about developing self-leadership. I spoke last week to the young people's mentoring program in Uganda, to 50 young leaders in Uganda, about being excellent self-leaders and doing things like that. Just really, I just love it. Like, yeah. And, you know, some people think like, what are you doing that for? Like in your spare time, like, you know, in inverted commas. And I just think, well, no, because I really love it. And the conversations, honestly, the conversations I had with those people at the end, in terms of in the Q&A time, fascinating questions they asked, like, you know, do you think is the defining feature of good leadership? Like really proper questions that I think a good question is a question that you could talk about for 10 minutes, you know, like is. And so Adventurous Leadership is all about that, helping people to become better leaders. And talking about Uganda is a good point to bring in Connected International. It's a charity that I founded earlier last year, and it came from, I mentioned earlier about network. It came from some networking that happened through Brunel. A colleague was interested in doing some research with colleagues in different countries, actually India and Uganda, and it didn't happen for whatever reason. It didn't come together. But then I got a LinkedIn message from Timothy David Wamby, wonderful young man, and he just said, "Hi, I'm the guy that was going to be working on the ground in Uganda," like just talking. And what developed from that LinkedIn message was LinkedIn messages, WhatsApp messages, FaceTime calls, me starting a charity, me donating money through Always Growing to his early years setting for Ajabu community. It means response in his language. And just, I wanted to help him to realize his dreams and ambitions for rural communities in Uganda. And I thought the best way to do that was to sort of create almost a sister charity in England, registered in England, to help raise funds, but also share knowledge that then can be utilized by him and his colleagues in Uganda. So it wasn't about like us like fixing Uganda and their early years. It was about us helping him and people like him to really develop communities, to develop their mindset around education, and particularly early years. And money goes so far in Uganda. Like, this isn't a plea for donations, but if your listeners do one thing after this, just check out Connected International. Adventurous Leadership, sure, check it out, but if you can just have a look at what happens in Uganda for early years education, like we could just do so much with relatively little out there. And I hope over the time Connected International will be able to get more funds over to Uganda to help more children have an early years education there, because we think we have problems here, but they don't actually have an early years education system as such formally, particularly in rural Uganda. You know, it's just not the sort of attendance at schools would shock the Western world, let's say, you know, in terms of who attends school and to what age. So we need to shift that, but that's obviously a lifetime mission, shall we say.
Bigger picture.
Yeah.
Are there plans for you to go over and visit?
Yeah, so obviously we've mentioned my two young children, so I don't want to put too much of a burden on my wife, but we have, I think, maybe if she listens to this, she'll have words with me afterwards, but we've pretty much agreed that I'm going to head out there later this year. yeah, probably just for a week. And I've been talking to my connections out there, not just Timothy, but other people, about how we're going to make this week work, because in Uganda, if you put like from Kampala to Ginger, it says like, say 3 hours, but it's not 3 hours. So like I'm trying to work out what a sensible itinerary is, so I can make sure I do what I want to do when I'm there and see these people and places that I've been supporting. And I want to run sessions when I'm there. I don't want to just go there and watch and look. I want to go there and I'm going to run a teacher training session with Tororo district and someone else, Constance, that I'm connected with, and see the nurseries and maybe meet some of the young mentors that I spoke with last week. So yeah, I'm actually completely buzzing about it. Like really excited to get out there and just see it for myself, and it'd be great.
It sounds like such an amazing project, and you can hear your excitement and your passion as you talk about it. It's wonderful. What's the big plan? What's the bigger picture ultimately for all of these things that you're doing? Do you have like a big plan?
Yeah, do you know, I do like
I
a
know that's
plan.
a big question.
Yeah, it is. I do like a plan, and I do like a vision, and I do like the idea of being able to continue the sort of the charity work that I've been doing and the sort of non-paid work that I've been doing, let's say. So I'm quite focused on making sure that my house is in order. What I mean by that is financially making sure I'm stable, because you can't help others from an empty vessel. So I'm absolutely,
Exactly.
so I want to make sure that I've looked after my family and myself, and then from there pour everything that I don't need into these good causes, shall we say. And there's so really, not to get too philosophical, but working out what is enough. And often, what you have right now is something you once dreamed of, but almost now you're a human nature, you want more.
Yeah.
So I'm really trying to think about what is my enough, and my wife's enough, and my family's enough, and recognizing that money can go so far somewhere like Uganda. Like literally for £6,000, Timothy was able to buy land, build a 2-room classroom with a garden for £6,000.
Wow.
And you think there's up to 60 children that
That's
can go there now.
crazy.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
and that I'll always, and don't get me wrong, like I have an iPhone, I've got a MacBook, like I have an Apple Watch. Like I'm not stingy like that. I have nice things, but I also recognize what is enough, and trying to make sure that I always give a little bit each month to these causes and my time as well. So that's really important. But I think a bigger picture as well is like I want to be that that 70-year-old that does a bomb into a swimming pool on holiday. Like I want to be that energetic, playful granddad, that can still move. And
Yeah.
so I try to focus on my health. Like High Rocks is a fitness thing that I've recently got into, so looking after myself in that sense is really important. So the bigger picture is to have a fulfilling life that I've created for myself. I think like I'm not going to let anybody else sort of determine my life. It's me with my wife and my boys determining what our life will be. So making choices along the way that makes our life more fulfilling, I think, is the bigger picture. I love working at Brunel, I love all my roles, but if you asked me 5 years ago would I be doing this now, I wouldn't have probably said that I would have been. So then therefore logic would suggest that in 5 years time I could be doing a whole host of things that I wouldn't be able to articulate now. So remain open.
Yeah, and I live by the phrase everything happens for a reason, and I think that's so true in things like this, where like you say, you didn't expect to maybe be where you are here, so you don't know the long term. And how much of it kind of you sound like you involve your family a lot in everything that you do, and I imagine kind of these are really big decisions that you'll have to make going forward, setting up a charity and doing things like that. They're big decisions. How much involvement do you kind of sit down with your wife and say, this is what I want to do? I imagine she has to be very on board with all things like this as well.
Yeah, I think my wife is incredibly supportive. I remember in my wedding speech, I said that my wife sometimes speeds me up and sometimes slows me down, but she prevents me from not falling over when I do what I do. And I said that she's the reason I can do what I do, and she absolutely does. Like even yesterday, she said to me, "What day are you not waking up this week early?" Because we sort of agreed it should be 4 days a week, not 5. But if it wasn't for her, I would just wake up probably 7 days. So,
Yeah.
she's very good at recognizing that and noticing quicker than I do that I need to just slow down a moment. Um, I think she definitely doesn't understand why I do some of the things that I do, but she also gets that the fact I'm doing it means that it's got a good reason, even if she doesn't understand it sometimes.
Yeah.
And we do have, I would describe it as constructive tension, where she gets me to really refine like what matters most, and does it have to be done that way? Like, do I have to go to that thing, or can I achieve what I want to achieve by not going to that thing, for example? But
Hmm.
she's very supportive, and yeah, she challenges me to really think critically about what I'm doing, and she definitely helps me to make better decisions. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't make as many good decisions as I do. And she's a primary school teacher by training, and so she
Oh,
does,
okay.
yeah, she understands education, and she's been to Uganda
Hmm.
in as an exchange thing when she worked in Dubai. So
Oh.
she has an insight into the things that I'm on about, and of course she's a parent, so she is very helpful in terms of the parent
Hmm.
perspective on Always Growing Nursery. So she fulfills that role too, and really supports the development of Always Growing, even though she wouldn't admit or maybe recognize the impact she does have. Like, she absolutely does. And yeah, whether or not she would feel as consulted as I'm making out she is in all of this, she absolutely does impact me,
Yeah.
even if she doesn't realize it, I suppose, which is important.
I think the comment you made about sometimes speeding you up, sometimes slowing you down, I think that's such an important thing to acknowledge, because sometimes you do need to slow down, don't you? And I've had
Mm,
this experience as well, where you try and run before you can walk, because you get so passionate and so excited about something. You're like, I'm going to do this and this and this and this. And you need that someone to ground you, don't you? And just say,
mm,
breathe, take a minute, look at the bigger picture. And it sounds like she's that perfect balance in your relationship, to come in and say, look, hang on, look at this from a more constructive
exactly.
view. So it sounds like she definitely does influence more than probably, like you say, she realizes,
Yeah.
which is a lovely dynamic. And again, lovely for your boys to grow up and see that dynamic between the two of you, of, you're a team, you're working together, and you've got that balance, which is really good. And it's nice to have that kind of balance with like business partners and things like that. And
Mm,
you've got that experience with your all of the team that you work with, I guess. So
yeah.
that's really nice. um we can't not talk about the fact that alongside all of these other million things that you're doing, you're also doing a doctorate.
Yeah.
Because you've got a bit of time, you can add in a doctorate.
But
So tell us a bit about that.
yeah, well, it's interesting. Connected to the last point, I remember sitting in a local Starbucks with my wife about 7 years ago, probably, and saying, "Look, one of my lecturers for my MA has recommended I consider this EdD, this education doctorate. I'm thinking of going for it, and I was in a lucky position where my business could, financially support me to do it. So that wasn't part of the decision, really,
Hmm.
which was wonderful. And she was like, yeah, go for it. And it was looking back now, it's a pivotal moment in my life, because I used to play football, um, like at a relatively good level, but I'd play like Saturday, Sunday. We'd travel to Cornwall to play, and like, it'd be my Saturdays gone, and train twice a week or play in the week as well. And at this moment, I shifted, sort of retired from football at like 25, 26, and started to focus on my professional development. And at the time, it
Mm.
was hard, and my dad was gutted. I know that for sure. I think he might have just about forgiven me now, because he was a wonderful supporter to me throughout my years of playing football. But the point I'm making is that it helped me really shift my focus and give it everything I got. And fast forward 7 years, 2 children, a pandemic. I'm waiting for my Viva corrections to be sort of approved. So hope to have that this month, fingers crossed.
Wow,
Um,
good
but
luck.
yeah, a wild ride. As I know, yeah, you're familiar with. It's yeah, full of ups and downs, and my research was about leadership in early years, so it was really close to what I was doing every day, which was a help, but also a hindrance in terms of the sort of academic standard regularities you might expect to see. It made it quite hard sometimes to distinguish between my research and my life, and why I know certain things, that trying to articulate in the
Hmm.
right way. But I think it's really helped me certainly try to, for example, spread the message of professional confidence. If in terms of my doctorate, 7 years, 86,000 words, whatever it was, two words, professional confidence, were the main thing that came out of that, and trying to help everyone as individuals to develop a stronger sense of professional confidence in early years, but also I think in all sectors and in life, not just in work. And that's what my work's been about. And probably for the past 2 years, I've been trying to go to conferences and talk about professional confidence in some way or another. So that's what it gave me. Soon enough, I hope it will, just give me that, I guess, authority to speak on the subject more and to just get the message out there, really. And every chance I get when I lecture, I bring early years into it. Although I do lecture in leadership, I bring early years into it a lot to raise the status. So yeah, my research, I love it. It's really enjoyable. But I'm definitely going to be pleased to see the back of the doctorate and start doing other work, a bit more small scale, and a bit more accessible to everyone. Like, I don't expect people to read my 80-odd thousand word thesis.
It's a big commitment, isn't it, to write something that long, and it's definitely a labour of love, isn't it? Because as you say, did you say 7 years you've spent?
So it's supposed to be 5 years, and then I had a year sort of extra, let's say COVID and children tax. And then I had a year for my corrections. I had major corrections for my Viva, which is a whole nother story for people that have experienced Vivas. And yeah, my experience wasn't as I thought it was going to be, shall we say. But it certainly has made me a better academic, a better researcher, and I think a better communicator as well as a result. So at the time, I wasn't thankful for that experience because it wasn't very enjoyable. But a year on, I can reflect more positively on the experience, and I'm pleased that it's all happened the way it has. Like you said, everything happens for a reason. And whilst at the time,
absolutely,
like my supervisor gave me a bottle of wine at the time because she thought it'd be a more positive outcome, and I've got that wine in my cupboard just to the side of the screen here. That when I get that email, I'll be putting it in my mug, probably on my desk here, and having a little glass with her.
Oh, well, crossing everything that everything goes smoothly for that final step. And make sure that you do share it on all of your platforms so that we know to send our congratulations. So if people want to know more about the things that you do, how they can get into contact with you, how they can maybe work with you or anything like that, what's the best way for people to make contact with you?
Sure, yeah. So I promised myself I'm going to be on LinkedIn every day this year. So far, so good. So I think LinkedIn is the way to find me, in any sense in terms of what I'm up to and what I'm thinking about, and message me on there. But also the good thing about any academic you want to reach out to is you can probably just Google their name and their institution. You'll find an email for them, and I'm no different to that. And the other good thing about academics is they love talking about their work. So if you do that, and if not just me, any academic you're going to reach out to, ask them a question about their work, they'd love to talk about it. But yeah, LinkedIn I think is the best place for me, and reach out to me. I love to talk about leadership. I love to talk about personal development, and of course early years. And I think we're stronger together in all those senses. So feel free to connect and reach out, and you'll have my time. I'm definitely open to that.
Brilliant, thank you. And do you have any websites or anything for any of the companies?
Yeah, so they're all online. You'll see them actually in my sort of description on LinkedIn in terms of links to them. But yeah, always growing website sort of showcases what we do. It's got our story on there in terms of our inception. Edventurous Leadership, you can see some of our online courses there. But LinkedIn Edventurous Leadership actually is where we sort of share daily sort of leadership thoughts as well, which of course is free. And then ConnectEd, our website, Connect International, or ConnectEd, INTL.com. You'll find us there and being able to, donate. And when I say donate, I don't mean necessarily just money, but if you've got some expertise you could share, that would be incredibly valuable, or resources as well, which would be great. But yeah, and TacTyc as well. We're going to redo our TacTyc website, but absolutely there's information there. And TacTyc runs some wonderful webinars for people in early years listening, like online free webinars. And our annual conference is coming up in November this year. It'll be in Birmingham. So it'd be great to have people that are interested in early years connect with TacTyc, because we're dedicated to supporting the professional development of early years. And it's a group of like-minded people trying to help early years lobby and advocate for them in the widest possible sense.
Brilliant. And what I'll do is I'll pop some links under the episode as well, so that people can easily just click through and come and find you. Just to finish off, because Recap's all about embracing everyone, making everyone feel at home and part of this supportive community, I do ask all guests to have a think of one piece of advice or an empowering message to give our listeners to help share that love and support. So if you could say just one thing to help even just one person, what would it be that you would say?
Yeah, I've thought about this question a lot, because there's so much, but what I landed on was uncommunicated expectations are premeditated resentments. And what I mean by that is simply, if you don't say what you want, you can't complain about what you got. So I'd like to encourage everyone to speak up for themselves, to love themselves, and to find that courage. Often you need to just have a short burst of 10 seconds of courage to start those difficult conversations and communicate your expectations, so you can, begin to create the life that you want. I think everyone's voice is unique and powerful. It's a powerful tool, so we must use it wisely, with care, but most importantly, hopefully, with confidence. So yeah, that's what I came up with in the end. And I hope that helps, like you say, at least one person to find that courage to speak up the next time they need to.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Lewis. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and I can't wait to continue to follow your journey and all the wonderful things that you're doing with everything. So I'll make sure to stay in touch, and hopefully we can have you back on at some point and have an update as things go on.
Brilliant. That'll be a pleasure. Thank you, Lucy, and good luck with everything you're working on.
Thank you so much. Good to speak to you. Take care.
And you.